Okay, welcome to our chapter one here. Just getting started here. We're going to be talking a little introduction of statistics, and here we go. Let's take a look here. And so again, a couple things that we want to be able to know when we're done here is we want to be able to identify the individuals and variables of a set of data, and then be able to classify those as categorical or quantitative. So that's kind of our main goals of what we're looking for, learning targets, if you will. All right, so a couple things to read here as we go. Statistics, again, this is the science and art of collecting, analyzing, drawing conclusions from data. So there's a lot to do there. Okay, we're going to learn that throughout the year. An individual is an object described in the set of data. So it could be people, animals, things, those types of things. And then, of course, a variable is an attribute that can take different values for different individuals. And those can be subdivided into categorical variable, which kind of puts a label. Okay, so it could be a blue or red or something like that. Whereas a quantitative variable takes on a number. And again, it could be for counts or measurements and those types of things. So we should be able to clearly identify those when we're going through our variables that we have. Now, again, with those quantitative variables, which are numbers, it could be discrete, in which case it could be fixed at a possible value. So when you're talking about numbers, it could be like integers, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there's gaps in between them. Whereas a continuous variable is a quantitative variable that can just anything in between those. So you could get every number in between 3 and 4. Okay, so discrete, there's going to be gaps, and there's going to be things that it's not continuous. You wouldn't be able to just draw a line and go through that. All right, so again, some things we're going to look at again is a distribution. Distribution of a variable tells us what the values of the variable takes and the values of those and how often it takes those. So again, as we kind of take a look here, let's look at analyzing some data. Here's just a little chart that we have a distribution. And one of the categorical variables that we have is preferred communication. There's a numerical value to it. It's going to be in-person, Facebook, cell phone, or text messaging. Those are going to be the communication methods. So those are categorical. And so we could always make bar graphs. Bar graphs are really nice to kind of visualize what's going on with the data as we look at it from a distribution. So it's kind of nice to have those. Now again, some other things that we could have, another type of variable that we have is number of languages spoken. And that is quantitative because, you have numbers. And again, we're going to talk about those being discrete because you can't have 1.5 language. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. There aren't any with 3 here, but you can see that. And again, another type of way that we could display this data is with a dot plot. You can kind of see how those stack up right here. So some different interesting ways of looking at data and representing those as we go here. So, all right, so let's take a look at what we have. Okay, we're kind of scrolling along. There it is. Okay, now the next thing we're going to look at is how to analyze this data. So as we look at those variables by itself, start with graphs. Now we looked at a few before where we had we had a bar graph, here's a dot plot, and then we're going to get into some descriptive statistics, and this is taken from a computer program, but you can see things like how many are there, what's the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum. We'll look at quartiles, maximums, those 5-number summaries as we're kind of looking at those. So those will be down and available as we go. Okay, whoops, there we go. So, oops, I missed the whole thing here. All right, here it is. Now, so again, we're going to look at the difference between descriptive statistics and inferential. Now, descriptive statistics is kind of exploratory data analysis, which kind of we look at those things. So things that we have there are ways to describe the numbers. It might be mean, median, mode, some other types of things, those types of descriptive statistics. And later on, we're going to get into is inferential statistics. And this is the process of drawing conclusions that go beyond the data. So we're going to get a sample set is what we're going to get. And I think I have a nice flow chart here that kind of describes that. What we're going to have is we're going to start with a sample, because a lot of times you can't ask everybody in the population. So you take a sample, and we'll talk about ways to do that appropriately. We're going to collect data. We're going to use some descriptive statistics, and then we're going to perform a little data analysis on that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, because of that, we're going to be able to use inference and say, okay, well, we can conclude that this is more than likely the case for the population. And that's kind of what we're going to be working on. There's So many different ways to do that. So once again, what we want to be able to do is take a look at our learning targets. We want to make sure, looking at data and a distribution, we want to be able to identify those individuals and the variables, and then be able to say, hey, those variables, are they categorical or quantitative? And if they're quantitative, are they discrete or continuous? And that's kind of what we're looking at here. So we'll get some practice with the problems that we have. All right, for that, that's section 1.0, a little introduction. We'll get going on those problem numbers that are assigned. You can see those on Moodle. And if you need expert assistance, I am available. And for now, I'm Mr. Boone.